So, Chapter 15, Section 5, the effects of the global contact. So, what are the impacts of the spice trade, the discovery of the Americas, the triangular trade? What does all this mean in terms of how did the voyages of European explorers lead to new economic systems in Europe and the colonies? So, by the end of this section, how led to the Columbian Exchange, the Commercial Revolution, and the impact that mercantilism had on European and colonial economies, which we've talked about a little bit already. So if we look at the Columbian Exchange, what the Columbian Exchange is, these items that go from the Americas to Europe, Africa, and Asia, and the things that come from Europe, Africa, and Asia to the Americas. And when you look at this Columbian Exchange, it gets named because of Christopher Columbus, because these things get initiated with his exploration. The fact of the matter is the new world gets, or the new foods and animals get sent to the old world. And these foodstuffs, for example, the potato, the lowly potato, has a tremendous impact on Europe. It's caloric, it's packed with nutrients, it is able to be kept in the ground. You see a huge population explosion because of the Columbian Exchange. And so Europe and Asia, the population increases. However, when you look at the flip side, Africa and the Americas, it decreases. And so for the Americas, it decreases because Native Americans are dying. For Africa, slaves are being moved to the Americas. And so while Native American populations are decreasing, the population overall is increasing because of all this migration and the influx of people. And so you can kind of see what happens from the 1500s to the 1800s because of this Columbian Exchange. So the potato becomes the staple diet of Europe. So if we look at the commercial revolution, the first thing that happens is the price revolution. And the price revolution is a result of all the silver and gold that is coming into Europe, and it creates inflation. So here is the beginning of the influx of gold and silver, and you can see what happens to grain prices, livestock prices, manufacturing, farm wages. All of that increases dramatically in a 100-year period, and that's what the price revolution is. What ends up coming out of this too is capitalism. So capitalism is a system of private investment and private ownership. And so the money supply increases, and because there's a tremendous amount of money floating around Europe, that leaves some extra money left over for investments. And what ends up coming out of that is capitalism and entrepreneurialism. People are going to create stock companies. They're going to create more banks and loans, and there's going to be commercial classes. So this has a huge impact on Europe and the way that they do business. And so a commercial revolution, you're going to get new business methods coming out of this. You see an increase in banking because of the increased money supply. Joint stock companies where people can buy a piece of a company. It diversifies risk. And so this is a video that I found, and we'll watch that in class. And then you see guilds weakening and a cottage industry popping up, where merchants, in this case it's cotton, goes to cottages that do the spinning. And after they spin it into thread, it's moved to cottages that do the weaving. And then it would move to cottages that would do the dyeing. And then that would be the finished cloth, and it would go to town to market. And this is going to eventually lead to the Industrial Revolution that we'll talk about in another few chapters. Mercantilism also arises, and I've talked a little bit about mercantilism already. The mother country definitely wins. The colonies definitely lose. It's a pretty strict system. Colonies are only allowed to trade with mother country. And so it's going to increase the wealth of these mother countries, and they're going to exploit these colonies. And what they're also going to do is they're going to pass tariffs. So they're going to place a higher tax on goods coming in from other places, so that way it makes their own manufactured goods less expensive. And this is going to have an impact on European society because you're going to see merchant and skilled workers in cities are on the rise. and that's going to eventually lead again to the Industrial Revolution. Large landowners and hired laborers are going to start to sink in this system, and they're going to become less important as things go. And so here's another example of fur coming from what would be France's. It gets turned into a finished product, and then other countries can buy those.